Hashtag New Reconstruction. Hashtag NRC. What's good, folk? Now, if you were one of those in attendance at the FBA March on Washington, November 5th, 2022, then I'm sure that you are eager to find out the plan of action. Now, a lot of people who were either there at the venue or morally supporting the FBA March online and in many other ways, the general consensus is that we are looking for the legislative bill that FBA actually is in support of. So without further ado, let's look at the legislative bills that have actually been tabled. Now, the AB-3121, Local Reparations in California, has been introduced. So let's take a moment to actually look at that particular legislative bill. I actually had an opportunity to speak with Jason Black, the Black Authority, about that very thing.
Speaking of reparations, it says in the AB 3121 that members of the task force shall be drawn from diverse backgrounds to represent the interests of communities of color throughout the state of California, have experience working to implement racial justice reform, and to the extent possible, represent geographically diverse, once again, there's that word, areas of the state. So I know that they voted on the criteria, and obviously there are two groups at least that are named in the AB 3121. That's African Americans, who are in fact descendant of cataloged slaves here in the U.S. And then there's another group who are obviously not descendant of slaves in the U.S. And they are just descendants of anyone who was a freedman up until the end of the 1900s. So I'm just a little concerned with the language in that bill and a lot of other movement politically across the board.
Well, this is the reason why you have to have vigilance about this. I've always said that. We've been covering this now since the very beginning. So you're gonna have to stay steadfast and vigilant about this. Just because you were able to get a committee through and a commission through and to get a reparations agenda up there and going, they're going to be trying to sit up here and morph it and change it and derail it and modify it and mutate it every step of the way. They're not going to go away. That's not going to stop. They're going to keep doing that. It is my belief, however, that what's going to occur, what they're going to ultimately settle on, is they're really going to say something like, okay, we're going to pass a reparations agenda for just the descendants of American slaves. And then they're going to come back and say, okay, now we're going to take up a new committee for Latinos and then a new one for Asians. So they'll basically do it piecemeal. That's really the one to watch out for, is that they're going to sit up here and try to fight this and contest it every step of the way. And once you finally do get it through, they're going to come back and say, okay, now we're going to do something different now. And we're going to go ahead and everybody else going to have their own committee that we're going to give them one. And what they're going to say then, if black folks, if we sit up here and say, okay, yeah, that's not going to work because you're trying to sit up here and you backdoored your agenda, instead of trying to give it to everybody else at the same time you gave it to us, you're going to give it to them right after you give it to us. And then they're going to jump and say, well, see, no, y'all need to go sit down. Nobody was messing with you when you were having your reparations committee, so you all don't get to speak on ours. You see what I mean?
Now we'll go back to the original motion on the floor. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. The original motion. Okay. I'm going to call the roll for the original motion as stated at the top of the page. Chair Moore. Vice Chair Brown.
Aye.
Member Bradford.
Aye.
Member Grills.
No.
Member Holder.
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. Member Holder voted yes. Aye.
No.
She voted
Can you repeat? No.
Thank you. Member Holder voted no. Nay. Member Jones Sawyer. Member Jones Sawyer?
Oh.
I'm sorry, the paper is hiding you all, so I can't see if you
I
can
said
speak.
no.
Thank you. Member Lewis? I'm sorry, Member
Aye.
Jones Sawyer voted no. Member Lewis?
Aye.
Member Lewis voted aye. Member Tamaki?
No.
Member Tamaki voted nay. Member Montgomery Stepp?
Aye.
Member Montgomery Stepp voted aye. Madam Chair, there were 9 members voting. 5 members voted aye, and 4 members voted nay.
Thank you. There are 9 members voting, 5 members voted aye, 4 members voted nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. So the community of eligibility will be based on lineage determined by an individual being an African American descendant of a chattel enslaved person or the descendant of a free Black person living in the United States prior to the end of the 19th century. And we will use this community of eligibility standard to instruct the economic consultant team with next steps. Thank you.
Hashtag New Reconstruction. Hashtag NRC.